funny riding this bike. I've got so many years on the Rocket. I mean, I've had this for almost 2 years now, a year and a half, I think. I'm, you know, obviously pretty used to it. I've put freaking, you know, 20,000 miles on the thing, and I've, you know, crossed, you know, 4 states on it. But, you know, I still have a lot more miles on the Rocket. And the thing about riding Rocket 3s around is it makes you very light touch on throttles, because, you know, the Rocket, you know, you're riding around with 100 and, you know, even before I started messing with it, you know, it was 135, 140 horsepower, 150 foot-pounds of torque. Mine has, you know, a custom tune, K&N pods, slip-on exhaust. Last I know I got was a long time ago, and it was actually before the K&Ns, but it was still like 146, 147 horsepower, 157 torque. That thing's a beast, and that torque, like, you know, when you're launching off of lights, you know, you are giving it just the tiniest little bitty throttle, because if you don't, you know, the thing will send you to the stratosphere. You'll end up, you know, looping it out or freaking rear ending the car in front of you or whatever. And, you know, really, if you're pushing that bike hard, obviously it'll eat. You can dig into the throttle, but riding around like this, like just around town, you know, you are literally just giving it the barest little, you know, touch. And I mean, honestly, because I commuted on that bike, that was, you know, more often than not, when I was riding the Rocket, I was literally just feathering the throttle. And because of that, like, I have to remind myself to, like, get into this bike. Especially, this is fly-by-wire, so the throttle has, like, no resistance on it, whereas, like, the Rocket has, like, super tight throttle cables. So yeah, I just have to remind myself to, like, get into it. I'll think this thing's slow, and then I'll realize that I'm just, you know, I mean, this is, compared to the Rocket, this thing is slow, but it's, you know, 85 horsepower, 120 foot-pounds of torque or something like that. It's not 125. Yeah, 85 horsepower, 125 foot-pounds of torque, which is not, you know, not nothing at all, actually, as far as cruiser bikes are concerned. It'll get out of its own way for sure. But I forget all the time, you know, that I have to actually, like, bite on the throttle on this to get it to go anywhere. And I'll be thinking, like, man, that's a really anemic launch. It's just because I was not even, you know, a quarter of the way into the throttle. But this bike, you know, she's, like I said, you know, she'll get out of her own way, but it's not, this is not a performance machine. It's not made to be fast. This is a touring bike through and through. My lemonade is leaking all over my bike. Not leaking, it's sweat, but you know, this thing is a barge. It's, you know, Shelby called it the Starship Enterprise. That's pretty accurate. But it's got a very cool infotainment system up here. I've got nav, which I never use. I actually have my phone hooked up here with a wireless charger on the RAM mount. And that's my nav most times, but it's not terrible, to be honest. It actually, you know, it works pretty good. The issue I have with it is that it doesn't update by itself. You know, you have to update the maps, and Yamaha has not offered new maps for this since like 2018, 2019, which, if you live in somewhere like Central Florida, that makes basically these almost useless. I have used it before because it does get GPS signal, you know, anywhere. You don't need to have, you know, it's not like a phone where you have to have internet. Even when you download offload maps or offline maps, Google Maps still can get a little hinky trying to use it with no internet at all. This works perfectly. I actually have one time been in the backwoods of Georgia, had to shut my phone off because it was messing up, and when I brought it back up, it would not re-enter navigation with no internet, even though I had maps for the area before I reset it. I don't know if it cleared the cache or what happened, but like I could not get it to work, and I was able to, you know, type in home on this, and it got me to the next interstate to get home. So I mean, I can't complain about that. But otherwise, the display is really cool. You've got all these different, and these info screens you can change. You know, you can modify them to put different stuff on them. But tire pressure gauge, which I do have wireless tire pressure sensors in my tires, which is awesome on a bagger because bending down and checking tire pressure on this thing sucks. They're a little off. I like to keep my tires at about 41, 42 on fat. It reads like 39 right now, but like if I were to plug a compressor thing into it, it would say 42. Honestly, I don't know which one's more accurate, but that's what I've noticed and what I run at. Normally these will, it should say anywhere between 40 and 39, and that's usually good for me. Average speed, and the bottom one there is actually a very cool display. Ignition on timer, so it tells you the last time you turned the bike on and like how long it's been, which seems like a useless piece of information, but it's actually not. There's been a lot of times where I've been out riding kind of without a set destination or without a we didn't have nav up, and wondering like, hey, I know Titusville's 2 hours from here. We've been on, how far away are we? And without having to type in all that shit into navigation and have it pop up, you can just look down and go, oh, well, we've been riding for 45 minutes. Okay, we're an hour away. That kind of stuff is really cool. And then battery voltage, another meter that's like not super important, but like is relevant. I mean, that tells you if your stator's messing up. It tells you if your battery's messing up. The bike sits at 12 when it's off. It jumps to 14 when you're riding. Voltage regulator is another thing that would indicate, you're having some type of issue with. Air temp sensor is the actual temperature outside. That's not the bike. It's the temp going into the bike. The motor on this thing is like a gajillion degrees, so that's not it. But that's, like I said, air temp. Weather a la Eluder. And then your range is instantaneous fuel range. It's basing it off of what's in the tank versus what your average mileage is, which you can see on the next screen here. Average is average total, so that's everywhere, every mile that's stored in this thing, versus what you're getting right now. Fuel consumption is your real-time fuel mileage, and then range again is the same as it was on the last screen. And then same difference, average speed on this one. And then in here is your functions. You actually can get CV and intercom for this bike. It plugs in right there. I don't use it. I've got a Cardo, but it is available. I actually don't even have the antenna hooked up for it because my tour pack's in the way, but you can do CB on this, and it does have a weather band as well. But the audio is actually really cool, and it wails. But you get album art and everything, and actually, one thing I really like about this thing, this is all on my thumb drive that's stored in here. You can do playlists. You can actually, you can mix and match everything on there, or you can go by artist, you can go by genre. It's actually really, really cool. And of course, all this is, touchscreen, or you can use your thumb, which is really cool.